Hey y'all. So something I like to do each week is that every time there's a Packback assignment, I go through and I like to pick a couple questions that I thought were interesting. Of course, there are a lot of interesting questions, and these are just ones that I first picked today. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about them and just see where you guys' thoughts are and what you think about them and things like that. So we'll start with the first one, right? This is from Alisha Franco, who's asking, why is it legally allowed for minors to be prosecuted in adult criminal court cases, especially since the maximum age juvenile court is 17? So especially, minors, get to be tried as adults. When you get a tattoo and stuff, it doesn't get to happen until you're 18. So let's talk about that, for a little bit, right? So it's an interesting process, right, where there are going to be instances where juveniles can be prosecuted, as adults, right, depending on the threat of it. And I think what happens a lot in these jurisdictions is that there's a belief that there needs to be a harsher punishment for juveniles, that they need to be taught a lesson, and this is not only going to deter that juvenile from committing more crime, right, but also other kids, right, to know that you can be treated, as an adult. There's a little bit of a threat involved there that, maybe, this punishment's going to really, prevent and deter you. And you're basically an adult anyway, so why not treat you like this, right? And I think that gets into a lot of philosophy. Now, the thing is, right, it's like, is it really good for a 17-year-old to be in prison with, 20-plus-year-olds, right? And it's really interesting is that, if we think about it's 17 really different than 18, 18 different from 19, depending on who you are, possibly not, right? But the main reason why some states allow this is just to be harsher on punishment, to really condone, really send a message about it. But it's interesting is that if you look at other European countries, right, you will see that juveniles are often segregated. Some of them may not go to adult prison until they're 21 or 22, maybe even as late as 25. Why 25? Because that's usually when adult brains develop, right? So brains are still developing completely. Mine's already done developed, right? It's too late for me. But what ends up happening is that you're maybe not fully culpable, and so again, it's really just more about setting a tougher kind of punishment, right? Now, a different question is is that the right thing to do, right? Should we continue to hold people more accountable for their actions younger and younger, rather than letting them grow up, make mistakes, maybe try to rehabilitate and save them, because states that use a harsher punishment are also going to treat you harsher, right? You can imagine that if you are, 16, 17, 18, 19, you end up going to jail or prison, right? You've missed out on a lot of early years. You missed out on what it's like to be like a kid. And when you come out, right, even though you're an adult, right, depending on how long that is, you're still mentally, 17, 18, 19-year-old, because that's what you were when you came in, right? You haven't really grown up, lived life, had enough experiences. You've just been around inmates, right? So it's an interesting question about, is this the correct thing to do in terms of preventing more crime for that person in the future, or is it just and fair to treat someone who is legally a juvenile like that, right, for seemingly maybe arbitrary reasons? So it's a good question, Alicia, excuse me. Thank you for asking it. Second one is comes from Dan Orozco, who's asking, how would criminal institutions be impacted if humanity discovered that everything's deterministic, right? So everything's preset, predetermined, and with no one being in complete control of their actions, is it okay to justify to incarcerate criminals? It's a really interesting point, because let's assume for a moment that we believe that everything's predetermined, right? So that some people are going to come out the womb, and we know they are going to be, and there are going to be problems, right? Maybe they have more aggressive genes than them, right? Maybe we suspect you get screened, and you're going to be more aggressive with people. We know that you're going to be corrupt, and you're going to not, consider the emotions of other people. Maybe we know that someone is risk-taking or sensitive to that, and as a result, we want to lock them up, right? So is that fair then, right? Is that when someone is born, before they've even committed, any kind of action, if we suspect that they are, they cannot be, controlled, do they deserve a right to be the normal population, right? Before they do anything, right? If you just flag on it, right? And so something that kind of is a dark history in criminology is using biological information to make determinations about people before they commit any actions, right? Historically, there was a lot of kind of dirty history with this where we would look at people, make determinations on them, and decide they can't breed anymore. We consider them, inferior in some way. They're locked up forever because of that. And that was really, the basis of a lot of, like racism and slavery issues in this country. It was that there was this belief, right, that black people were considered inferior to white people, and they would do ways where they would limit their ability to procreate, right? So is that fair, right? If we believe that someone is going to be a born criminal, should we prevent them from procreating, right? Or if we believe that someone is going to be a criminal, should we lock them up, right? Now this question, right, is it ethically justified to incarcerate them? What do we do in that case then, right? So what's going to be just for them? Do we isolate them from everyone else in society, or just put them into their own kind of colony, right? So do we do like what Australia was for a long time, make it a convict colony, as it were, or Georgia in the United States, for a while was a convict colony? Is that something that we want to do? I don't know, right? Because if we can identify at a young age, or maybe like in the womb, that someone may be at a risk, do we start separating them in schools at a young age, right? And to some degree, we do that, right? If someone exhibits problem behavior at a younger age, then they're often isolated, they get special treatment, they're sort of being labeled and treated differently in school programs, and who knows what the long-term effects of that are, right? I think this kind of question is that if we find out that something is deterministic in someone, right, that they are going to be a problem no matter what, what is the correct and ethical thing to do about it? I think it's a great question. Thank you for asking it. There are a lot of rooms for debate on this. So again, love seeing these questions. I'll continue posting these videos each week just to kind of highlight ones for them. Again, plenty of great questions. These are just two that I picked today. But until then, I'll see y'all next time.